Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports here on WYLN. I'm your host, Marty Burns. This week, pleased to have as our special guest, Mr. Joe Clark, member of the Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about the 2021 induction class. We'll get right to it right after this.
Hey guys, this is Ray Merrill from Blaze Alexander Mazda, Greater Hazleton. You want to get the most reliable car according to Consumer Reports? You want the largest selection in the area? Check out these new Mazdas. We have 2021 Mazda CX-5s. We have 2021 Mazda CX-30 all-wheel drives. Come on down to the better dealership to get the better car and the most reliable car in the market. You could come see us. They beat Toyota and Lexus. Come to 508 Susquehanna Boulevard in Hazleton. Check them out online at blazealexander.com.
SJ Kowalski is your Mitsubishi Diamond Contractor. They can install a Mitsubishi electric Mr. Slim ductless heating and cooling system. Mr. Slim systems are designed to make any living space in your home inviting. You can have a different temperature control for every room in your home. The money-saving technology can save you 25 to 50% on your heating bill. For Mitsubishi, Rinnai, and trained comfort specialists, call SJ Kowalski at 570-455-2600. There's no better place to shoot than Whitetail Preserve. Their skeet trap and sporting clay fields are professionally designed and all stations are handicapped accessible. Whitetail Preserve has resident shooting instructors certified by the NRA in shotgun, rifle, pistol, home safety, and personal protection in the home. Whitetail can also cater any size event, whether it be a private party, corporate event, or wedding. Call 570-455-4251 extension 1378 for more information.
Follow us on our weekly journeys through the backstories of those paving NEPA toward a better future.
Each night we'll dig a little deeper into the lives and goals of our local leaders. So stay tuned for the end of our news as we learn more of those leading the way.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Sports here on WYLN. I'm Marty Burns. Joined this week by Joe Clark of the Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame. And Joe, thanks for joining us. An exciting time coming up here for the Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame.
It is, and we appreciate the time, Marty, to get the information out about the Hall of Fame since we were put down by the pandemic last year. So we're trying to come back and get the information out there to the public.
Well, and it's a good segue into my first question. Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, like so many things last year, gone due to the COVID pandemic. But you're back here in 2021 with a new date and a new site.
Right. It's Sunday, September 19th. We're always the third Sunday of September. And with the demise of the Genetti Motor Lodge, we will be at Capriotti's Plaza in McAdoo.
And I understand, before we get to this year's induction class, some of the classifications that you've had in past classes won't be there, but hoping to get them back in the future.
Right. We weren't sure as to the number. When we planned this, we talked with Capriotti's. The number was 200 at that point. It appears now at the end of the month the governor's going to lift all restrictions. So we eliminated the posthumous category. We eliminated the Veterans Committee appointment, and we omitted the civic administrative type thing to try to cut down on the number of guests. But hopefully next year, 2022, those categories will be put back in.
And there's somebody I know very close, they'll say in his category he's still a Hall of Famer and nobody's passed him up yet. But we'll leave that for another time. But let's start with the coach, Margaret Brown.
Margaret Brown. You're probably too young to remember the onslaught of Title IX. But in this area, you had Jane Dunn at Hazleton. You had Ann Johnson and Nancy Snyder at West Hazleton, Nancy Snyder-DeMera, and Dr. Deb Carr in Freeland. Margaret Brown was the Weatherly individual who pushed the female sports at that point. She coached softball for many, many years. Not only she coached there, but even now she's still active in the women's golf leagues around the area. She's organized those and ran them for many, many years. So she is really, I don't like to use the word pioneer, but she was one of that group of outstanding female leaders who really pushed the female sports in the greater Hazleton area. Well deserving. She's been on the ballot for a while, and finally we were able to get her the votes to get her in.
And we moved to one of the female athletes, and we'll start with Rachel Ritz.
Rachel Ritz, it's something about the genes. Again, you're too young to remember the old West Hazleton, Delaware wing T, gassy horn, always had a scat back. Well, Rachel's dad was one of those scat backs, Mark Ritz, so it's in the genes. Rachel still has some records. Her sophomore year, she ran for Hazleton High School. Her junior and senior year ran for Hazleton Area High School. She still holds some records for Hazleton area, and she was a sprinter, obviously, and with that genes. And she went on to LaSalle, full athletic scholarship at LaSalle, and she is on the LaSalle Wall of Fame as one of their outstanding athletes in the history of the college. Plus, excuse me.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It's the first time we're going to have a brother-sister combination. Her brother Jason was an inductee several years ago.
Right.
So that's the first time we have a brother-sister combination.
And we go to the softball, Heather Dale Nat.
Heather Dale Nat, quite the player, quite the pitcher. Her record at Hazleton area was outstanding. I think she lost 3 games in 4 years. Went on to Lackawanna College where she pitched for 4 years. Then came back and was a very successful coach of the Lady Cougars. Right. Gave that up to become a mom. So
some things take priority, Joe.
Yes, especially since we're so close to Mother's Day. But Heather had, as a player and a coach, tremendous credentials.
It's always good to see when those standout athletes come back and pass along their knowledge to the youth.
Absolutely.
Another one of those, and maybe the best Flanagan to play in our area, Alyssa Flanagan Garcia. Her dad might have something to say about it, but we know her Uncle Joe has nothing that can compare to what Alyssa did.
No, another one of those Freeland gym rats.
Yep.
Every year, this is going to be our 16th class. There's someone from Freeland, and the first thing is the Freeland Y, the Freeland Y. And I'm sure Alyssa, with her uncle in charge, grew up in the Freeland Y. 4-year starter at Hazleton area. She was MVP of the Wyoming Valley Conference, the large division, 3 years. Went on to Bloomsburg, set all kind of assist records at Bloomsburg. Got into coaching at LaSalle, the Sales University, and then Bloomsburg. So well deserving and quite the Freeland point guard.
Absolutely. And she was always that coach on the floor for Coach Gavio, and then when she moved on.
Yeah, you well know you need that person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Success depend a lot on that individual, and she was the coach on the floor, as you said.
And if I may, just real quickly to put out my own personal opinion, we joke about Uncle Joe, but yes. I think somewhere along the way, Uncle Joe deserves a spot in the Hazleton Hall of Fame. Just for what we talked about, what he did for all those years at the Freeland Y.
I think someone nominated him, and he said, he kind of back off because, as a member of the board, he kind of felt. But you're right. I mean, it was Tom Landers and then Joe Flanagan.
Right.
And you're familiar with Freeland. I mean, without the Freeland Y, the Freeland community would have been. It's still very active. But he can't do enough for you. When I was involved with Leadership Hazleton, he gave us the Y for one of our meeting places, and he always, came. We do this thing with the United Way, and again, we always joke about his enthusiasm.
Oh yeah,
said he was the kids just loved him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he always got whatever he wanted because he was so dynamic and with the kids. But you're right. You're absolutely right. We should really maybe think about that.
Well, you just put them in a dark room and don't let them know that you did. But that'll be the last of my opinion on this subject. We head to the men, and we'll get to a couple before we go to our first break. And we went from Hazleton area Lady Cougars to one of the Hazleton area Cougars, one of the sharpshooters, Michael DeMarco.
Michael DeMarco, and I joking with Dave Seaman, it seemed like you had to be Michael to get in this year. We have 4 We have 4 Michaels going in. Michael DeMarco, I think I was in maybe my last year doing radio, and you did so many of his games. Consummate team player.
Yeah.
Third leading scorer in the history of Hazleton Area High School, won at East Stroudsburg where he also excelled, and now is back again. One of the former athletes coming back, helping the coach. But he was the consummate team player, and he could do it all: defense, offense, and I said third leading scorer in the history of Hazleton Area High School.
And I'll freely admit here on television, one of his biggest shots that he hit was that I forget who they were playing, but the 3-quarter shot right before the buzzer. The opponent had put the ball in the basket. I put my head down to mark it in my book, and I pick my head up, and I see the ball going through the hoop. And
I remember watching it. Yeah.
So needless to say, one of his longest shots that he's ever hit, I missed it.
Plus a great kid.
Oh, great kid. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another great kid and a hard-nosed kid on the Hazleton area team, Michael Barletta.
Michael Barletta, almost the same type player. All-around player, good defense, scored when he had to, went on to Muhlenberg where he had a great career as well, back in the area, working for Capriati's.
Yeah.
So he'll be at home, in his workaday thing. But Michael was, again, consummate team player, quiet, never said anything. Again, this is the one thing about it, and you've been involved, you've been around all along, the quality of the people.
Yeah.
These athletes are amazing. It just, and these two Michaels, they kind of shadow each other. They're the same type player, same type personality. You never even knew they were on the floor by their actions, other than they played a great game.
Right. We're going to round out the 2021 Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame induction class as we go to break right after this.
Penn State Hazleton is improving the lives of others, starting in our community.
Providing degrees that meet the needs of the area.
Fueling entrepreneurship and contributing more than $36 million annually to the state's economy.
Researching the health of our local ecosystem on the Susquehanna River.
Together, our impact keeps growing, backed by the strength of 24 campuses and 700,000 alumni.
Go hog wild for Iron Pigs baseball. WYLN is televising the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs live. America's favorite pastime on your local network, WYLN TV 35. See the stars of tomorrow at Coca-Cola Park. Don't miss any of the games here on WYLN TV 35. Visit WYLNTV.com for a complete Iron Pigs schedule. Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs on WYLN, your home for live sports.
Skin tags are embarrassing, uncomfortable, and pop up everywhere. Well, now you can put an end to those ugly skin tags and remove them at home with Hempana N-Tag, the revolutionary skin tag remover. Simply brush it on and the skin tags fade away and fall off and stay off while the surrounding area stays nice and smooth. N-Tag works for all skin types and is gentle enough for sensitive areas, including your face and neck. And Hempana N-Tag is enriched with hemp seed oil for added moisture, plus all natural turmeric and aloe. So stop living with ugly, embarrassing skin tags. Get Hempana N-Tag with over 50 applications for only $29.99. But when you order now, you can double the offer. Just pay a separate fee, and we'll give you a full money-back guarantee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Order now.
Call 1-800-331-1639. Call or visit getntag.com. So call 1-800-331-1639. Order now.
WYLN programming is online all the time. Visit our website at WYLNTV.com to check out archive shows and a live stream of our broadcasts. And don't forget to visit all of our social media pages for breaking news, weather, and sports. You can also head directly to our YouTube page for all our programming at youtube.com/WYLNTV35. Subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified every time there's a new show available online.
What's on TV? Plenty. WYLN TV 35, the best in local programming.
welcome back to Let's Talk Sports here on WILN. I'm Marty Burns, joined once again by Joe Clark of the Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame. And Joe, for fans just joining us, let's talk again, the 2021 induction ceremony, when and where?
September 19th, Sunday afternoon at Capriati's Plaza.
And as we've talked about, Genetti's closing, no longer at Genetti's, but Capriati is a great place.
Oh, it is. I only have to go about an eighth of a mile. I could
the
walk.
Ultimate home game for you, Joe.
I can walk to the venue, but they're so easy to work with, and we're happy to be going there.
And let's get to our next inductee. And the only thing that I have in connection with this one is I went to Bishop Hayfie and Kings, and that's about it. Michael Portanova.
Well, I taught at Hayfie and went to Kings, so we have a lot in common. When I was athletic director, Dr. Sideri was the tennis coach, and Michael was playing in a district final way up and past the Abingtons. And Doctor had an emergency call, so I had to go act as the coach. And Michael was playing in the districts. He and his brother, both another doctor as well. They dedicated their lives to tennis. Michael championships all over the place. And at Kings, he had great NCAA credentials at Kings. And when Rick Barletta was inducted, Rick, of course, the tennis pro at the country club, Michael was part of that. He still plays, he still teaches, he's still very active in the area of tennis. So we're very happy to have a tennis player.
Yeah. And another example of giving back. You know, it's one thing to succeed and excel in whatever your particular sport, but when you're able to give it back.
Mm-hmm. And I think these tennis players who have succeeded, like Rick and like Michael, they're trying to promote the sport because let's face it, it's not a real popular sport like baseball or football might be. So a lot of times these guys are there trying to promote the sport and teaching and putting on exhibitions because they could hit. It's amazing how they hit the ball.
Yeah.
When Michael was a senior and I was up there, I just couldn't believe how he could play.
Yeah.
Dedicate a lot of hours. Parents traveling all over the place, and well deserved.
And maybe that's something we should touch on before we get too far along. This ceremony is not only just for the inductees, it's for the families because of all the time that they put in. And it doesn't matter the sport. You've always got to practice, and you've got to always pick them up from practice and get them to practice and that type of thing. Sometimes I think it might be bigger for the families than it is for the inductees. I'm
always amazed, and I shouldn't be after 16 years, at the emotion.
Yeah.
Ed Ferdinand, one of the co-founders, always said there's nothing like being honored by your hometown. And your dad was honored, well deserved. How emotional it was. Your sister was there, your nieces, nephews. It's just, and then Colleen Donlan that year had just passed away. We did the presentation in her sick room, so she got the plaque before she passed. The emotion there, but it's very emotional. And every year I'm surprised at the emotion that is shown. But you're right, the families really enjoy it.
Yeah, and we'll get to the final Michael, and then we could get to everybody else. When I think back to my youth, and I know there were long Hazleton area players that played big-time Division I, but I remember Michael Joseph at Bucknell getting into the NCAA tournament, playing against the late, great John Thompson and one of the great Georgetown teams.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things that you have that community pride just to see one of Hazleton's own get to that big stage. And, Michael, not just with Bucknell, but he had a great career with the Hazleton Mountaineers.
When Bruce Live first came back, I think it was 84, I think. Gafrovich was at Nanticoke, Joseph at Hazleton. They had 3 playoff games that year, all at Kings. It was unbelievable. You're talking about Kings College being filled then.
Yeah.
And you remember at St. Joe's. Again, I don't know, you're a lot younger than some of us here, but the lines to get into St. Joe's and they used to have the lottery for tickets for the playoff games. And Michael was the first, I guess, when Bruce came back. Michael's senior year was fantastic at Hazleton. A lot of people don't realize that he led the nation in foul shooting percentage his senior year at Bucknell. Shot 93% from the foul line. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Yeah. He could have been in the coaches category as well because he had a very successful coaching career at Hazleton Area High School.
Well, now he just gets to do it as a 2-timer.
Right.
Let's go to somebody with some speed. And I remember seeing him on the football field, and he also applied it on the track, both at Hazleton area and Syracuse. I'm talking about Donald Pollitt.
Donald Pollitt. Dave Seaman said to me after the meeting, and Harold Refowich, also a member of the committee, when they read his resume from Syracuse, I think we were aware of what he did here in Hazleton football, but he was district champion 2 years in a row in the hurdles, and the state champion in his junior year, came in second in his senior year. But his accomplishments at Syracuse in the NCAA, I mean, that's big time, Big East, Division I, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's in San Francisco now. We're a little concerned that he's going to be able to make it back, but that's where he resides, in San Francisco. But unbelievable accomplishments.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the last two inductees, multi-sport athletes, excelling. Let's start in Weatherly with Ed Hadzik.
I was assistant coach at West Hazleton. That Weatherly team, of which he was the captain, 75, 76, is a member of the Hall of Fame, one of the teams that we inducted. He was... And I was Josh Grabelny's assistant. We went to play Weatherly. I mean, it was, how do you stop Hadzik? How do you? He was an amazing basketball player, and just in other sports as well. Went on to the Air Force Academy where he played for Greg Popovich and had a great career, and in the military as well. Outstanding. But he was in that year probably the best high school basketball player in this area.
And the final inductee. Baseball, basketball, football at Hazleton, John Spivak.
John Spivak, he was nominated 10 years ago by Joe Tobias. Joe Tobias was in the first class. Right. Joe and John were friends through the banking system. Joe nominated him and John, he kind of stays in the background, but he was a three-sport athlete. Baseball was his primary sport. He went to Delaware Valley on a baseball scholarship, played there, came back. Here's your theme again, Marty. He and Mike Fulton ran those adult softball tournaments and travel teams for years and years. You know, when Drifton first opened, there was tournaments there every weekend. Yeah, I can't remember. They said how much money they used to bring into the Hazleton area, those tournaments on a weekend. There were 30, 40 teams. Yep. And John and Mike ran those things. And he became a very excellent PIAA basketball official. And again, you talk about community. He was chairman of CANDO for 2 years. Mm-hmm. He's involved with the Integration Center now as well. But he was, I'd say, John, we have a percentage, I think it's 4. If you get 4 votes, you stay on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Under 4 would take you off, but you can be renominated. John will always get 5 votes, 6 votes. He was close to one this year. And then in the discussion, they said, here's a guy, 3-sport athlete, comes back, helps the community. So he was able to get over the hump this year. It just proves he was on the ballot for 10 years, and Margaret Brown, too. So we don't give up on them.
Yeah. And I remember my dad taking me over to Drifton one time, and we saw him play in softball. The way he hit a softball, it just had a different sound.
Oh, yeah.
Than everybody else, and he was a big hitter.
That's what someone said. They didn't realize, a lot of people don't realize what a good athlete he was. 3 sports as well. Yeah. Tough football player, too. Yeah. So we're thrilled that John made it.
And an athlete behind that great smile, he's always good.
Yeah.
So that was the 2021 induction class. We'll have a little bit more information about the Hall of Fame right after this.
Hey guys, this is Ray Merrill from Blaze Alexander, Greater Hazleton, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. You want a great deal? You're looking for a great truck? You want a great selection? Come check us out. We've got trucks, whether you want a Warlock, a Rebel, whatever trim level you want, we've got them. We've got a plethora of Ram vehicles. We've got a plethora of Jeep vehicles. Why am I using that word? How else do you describe all this inventory? Here's the big close. Don't forget, Blaze Alexander, Greater Hazleton has the lowest price guaranteed.
Third Base Luncheonette, still making memories after all these years.
PPW Nation, get ready for the best of PPW Season 2. Join Paul Bowe, E. Julius Kuiper, Alexander Bravado, Tom Mitchell, and Alex Watt as we take you down memory lane and relive some of the best PPW matches of all time. Saturdays at 5 p.m., Sundays at 10 p.m., only on WYLN.
Hi folks, welcome to Let's Talk Chiropractic. I'm Dr. John, this is Ismania, Dr. Alex. Tune into the show this week. Ismania could not get pregnant because she had to lose 300 pounds. Through gastric bypass surgery she did, and miracles happened, so tune in.
Do you like craft beer? Do you want to learn the right way to sample wine? How about checking out a restaurant with a unique flavor or a crazy food challenge? These are just some of the things we are featuring on Wine, Hops, and Road Stops. So, spend some time learning about great wine, great beer, and great food on WYLN TV 35.
Welcome back to the last segment of Let's Talk Sports. We have Joe Clark from the Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame here as our guest. And Joe, we talked about it. We mentioned John Spivak, and you said Joe Tobias had nominated him. That's the whole key of getting these great athletes into the Hazleton Sports Hall of Fame is the nomination process. Could you talk about a little bit about that?
Well, we any of the board members, if you feel, and there are a lot of people probably should be on the ballot, but we have to have a resume to vote on them. So you can talk to any of the and there'll be a picture, and so you know who the members of the board are. Give it to Marty here. Easiest way probably is Dave Seaman at the standard speaker. Just some information, get them on the ballot, and then you can expand that later on. A couple years ago, one of the people nominating said, "This is a tough process." She said, "Why don't you have a one-sheet thing?" So we did. We came up with a one-sheet thing. You just put the basic stuff down and get it to any board member, and you'll get them on the ballot. And I said, we talking, so many people could be on.
Yeah.
And at the last banquet we had, if you remember, Kathy Pasden kind of is in charge of that. We try to get those things out as much as we can, those things being the nomination form. But call anybody. I said, you can call it you.
Absolutely.
People see you all over the place.
Absolutely.
You're always doing the games. And again, thanks to YLN to get those games on. But again, Dave Seaman probably because you can just call the standard speaker or email him at the standard speaker and give him the information. Most of the nominations come through Dave.
And we didn't have a lot of time. A half an hour goes fast here
absolutely.
On Let's Talk Sports. But tune into or check out the Hazleton standard speaker through the weeks. Dave Seaman and his sports staff is going to put together individual stories on each of the inductees.
He usually puts the first one in on Father's Day.
Okay.
For whatever reason, but it usually seems to be Father's Day. As I said, he got a few in already, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's a good class. We're very pleased with the diversity of the older and the younger.
Absolutely.
And people who really deserve to be in.
And I think it's a nice way for some of these athletes that maybe have not had a chance to meet one another, to get together as a group and be able to talk.
That's a great point you bring up, because a couple years ago, there's a gentleman from McAdoo. Can't think of his name, escapes me now. And Jason Gutsy were sitting at the table together. Well, they struck up this conversation, and they even contacted people, and the gentleman passed away about 6 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
But and Justin was so thrilled. But you see that from different generations talking, and that's a good point, because they get to meet them, and they've read about them, they've watched them now, of course, thanks to you guys. Up live and personal, really. So,
Joe, thanks a lot for joining us. Great induction class. Looking forward to that third Sunday in September at Capriati's.
Again, appreciate the opportunity, Marty.
Anytime. So for Joe Clark, I'm Marty Burns saying so long. Join us next week for another edition of Let's Talk Sports here on WYLN.
You're watching WYLN TV 35.